Here we go. The English. Okay, some sort of Slav. Okay. So black plays bishop b4. So what are some possible moves for white here? So yeah, some simple developing moves would make sense. So notice that black's kind of a tempo behind on a normal Nimzo Indian. Usually black would have played this move, and instead he has this move in, which doesn't help him too much. Some moves that are good would be like knight f3, queen c2, or even e4. Because notice that we can play e4 because there's no knight f6, but e3 is fine as well. But the move that white played is a little weird, a3. So, black kind of wants to make this trade. So by forcing it, you're kind of making a move that doesn't really do much for yourself. I mean, it's not, terrible, but, there's no reason to force the issue with this bishop, because this bishop probably wants to take this knight anyway. And I'm not saying that trade is great for black necessarily, but it deprives you of some possibilities. So if you keep your pawn on a2, and then black ends up taking this and you take back, you have possibilities to put your bishop on a3 at some point. And in general, it's kind of like a wasted move. But okay, but black compounds his errors in the opening and plays what he thinks is a tricky move. Queen a5. So the point of this move is that this pawn is pinned. So if pawn takes bishop, queen takes rook. Okay, so what should white do here? Right, so now in this position, we can simply defend our knight and play bishop d2. And the point is, now black is either forced to give up the bishop pair, but he doesn't even get anything in return, right? Because normally when black plays this move, it forces a recapture from this pawn and white gets doubled pawns, so at least that's something that black can play for. But giving up the bishop pair for pretty much nothing, after bishop takes, white can recapture with the bishop. So white basically gets two bishops and a free hand in the center. And the other alternative would be for black to retreat his bishop. But after retreating his bishop, he's going to also have to retreat his queen. And so white just gains a bunch of tempi. So let's see what white did. White actually did play bishop d2. Black, rather than taking on c3, plays bishop f8. Okay, so now in this position, what should white play? Yeah, running home is generally not best. But if you guys think you've seen running home, you should wait a move or two. So it actually turns out that this queen is not on the best square at the moment, because we always have potential ideas of, okay, maybe we have knight b5, maybe we have knight d5, maybe we have knight e4. I mean, it's not clear that any of these moves actually do anything. because they actually just help retreat the queen to where it wants to go, which is ideally probably c7. But the queen is a bit precarious, and these ideas are looming. But it's actually probably best here just to simply continue development. So I move like knight f3. Because the queen would much rather be on c7 than on a5, and making some sort of move to kind of push the queen away from that square probably helps black. Okay, let's see what white actually did. White played this move. Okay. So, gaining a tempo, true. Kind of a hyper-aggressive move. But again, it's probably chasing the queen to where it wants to go on c7. And after queen c7, black can, kind of try to develop his pieces and not be too much worse for the wear. Okay, let's see where black goes. Well, of course. Well, of course. So, can someone tell me how many tempi is white up in this position? A lot. 4. Right. So you can imagine actually, so notice that white's moved this. So white's played 1 move, 2 moves, 3 moves, 4 moves, 5 moves, 6 moves. And black's played how many moves? 2. So 6 is more than 2. So being up 4 tempi should be good, right? 6 to 2 should be a healthy advantage. Okay, so what should white do here? Right, because if you don't do anything with the tempi, black eventually is going to complete his development. Yeah, so a natural move is e4. Just grab more space, get ready to get this bishop out, play knight f3, bishop d3, castle, and then we can start deciding whether we want to play d5 or e5 or c5, or maybe we play f4. We have a lot of choices, but it's going to take black at least 3 moves to castle, if not more. So yeah, just develop. Yeah, knight f3 is fine too. But again, we don't want to commit to anything right away. We kind of want to nurse our advantage in development for a couple more moves, and then we can decide exactly where to strike, depending on where black puts his pieces. But notice that in general, his dark squares are going to be probably what we want to target. Because this pawn structure, this b7, c6, d7, e6 pawn structure, lends itself to very weak dark squares, particularly the square on d6. So, okay. But white played e3. So again, there's no reason to be kind of conservative with your moves, because you have so much more space than black, and your pieces are so much better developed. There's no reason to play a move like e3. It kind of just hems in this bishop unnecessarily. But okay, he wanted to get his bishop out. Yeah, why so passive? I don't know. But in some positions it makes sense to be passive. You want to be solid. But here, when you're up 4 tempi and you control the center like this, I don't really see the necessity to do that. So this is something that you guys should look out for in your games, because I notice this a lot where people, they just want to kind of develop their pieces calmly. But it's important to grab space whenever you can, because you might not get a second opportunity. Okay, so knight f6, bishop d3, bishop e7, knight f3. Okay, so he's developing, pretty well. But notice if this pawn were on e4, then like e5 might be very strong, because now we open up this bishop and all sorts of stuff. But okay. So castle, rook e8. Okay, so what should white play here? Well, it turns out he should play the same move he should have played 4 moves ago, which is, yeah, exactly right, e4. So just because he didn't play it 4 moves ago doesn't mean he shouldn't play it now. So again, e4. And this further solidifies the point as to why e4 was better on move 7 as opposed to now, because now white's wasting a tempo back. But okay, he's still up 3 tempo, or 3 tempi, even if he plays e4. But yeah, he should get this pawn into the game, because this pawn on e5 will be a very strong foot soldier. Okay, so white instead played knight e5, which I'm not exactly sure what it does. I mean, maybe he wants to try to play f4, f5, but okay. So d6, chasing the knight away. Knight goes back. So black kind of managed to shore up his pawn structure a little bit by controlling this square, kind of for nothing. Okay, now d5. Okay, now, funnily enough, white should actually go back and play knight e5 again, because now this square is actually a permanent home for the knight. Notice the difference. Notice the difference. So in this position, knight e5 is not as good because it can be kicked away. But in this position, knight e5 makes a lot of sense because now the knight can't be kicked away and it occupies a dominating outpost. And now you are preparing for f4 and f5. So for example, knight e5, knight bd7, simply f4. And then if he ever takes, you take with the f pawn, play queen h5, and you know, I mean, you're mating pretty much. So okay, but white played c5. Okay, which also makes sense, just trying to gain space, securing the d6 square. Yeah, exactly, like a very good stone wall, because black's pieces are completely undeveloped on the queen side. Okay, so b6. Okay. So what should white do now? So here, let's ask ourselves the theoretical question, who is looking to exchange pieces here? White or black? Like, who would prefer some exchanges to occur? White or black? Yeah, black. Okay, that's very important. Why specifically black? Right, because he has less space. This is something that's like super important because this type of kind of theoretical idea that you don't want to trade pieces when you have more space is crucial. Because it turns out that you do want to play this move e4 at some point. But the problem is you don't want to do it right away. And the reason is because it trades too many pieces. So I'll show you what I mean. But the right way to play e4 was to play queen e2 first. The reason being that you control this diagonal. So there's no bishop a6 shenanigans. So, you know, trading off this guy for this guy is not so bad for white. But trading off this guy for this guy is. So, for example, I mean, the move that the Patzer played was e4. And the point is, after d4, knight e4, bishop a6. Bishop a6, knight a6, knight f6,
check.
Bishop f6. And now all of a sudden, does black look so terrible here? Probably not, actually, right? Because now his knight can maybe hop into d5. And this is technically a bad bishop now, whereas this is a good bishop. So, okay, I mean, white has still some space, and, you know, maybe he can create a weak pawn on c6, but, I mean, black looks a lot better here than he did, you know, 4 moves ago. So you have to be a little bit careful about that kind of stuff. Okay. So he had the right idea, it's just kind of a little bit late. And it does give black some relief. But black has to find some precise moves in order to kind of make this move inaccurate. Okay, so he took on c5, took on c5, bishop b7. Okay. So now another positional idea. What should white play here? Yeah, good. So let's move e5 is strong. And now, no matter where the knight goes, say knight d7 or something. Yeah, so the point is we want to put this knight on d4. So we'll play rook e1, or maybe even queen e2, just to defend this pawn. But then we're going to follow up with knight d4, and f4, and f5, and f6. And it's very hard for black to kind of get out of this bind. This knight on d4 hits this, this knight on d4 hits this square and this square. So it's hard for black to play f6 and kind of get rid of this pawn on e5, because e6 will be very weak. And also notice this bishop and queen control a6. So this is going to be hard for black to kind of get out of. Okay, but white instead played take, which kind of frees up this bishop a little bit. Okay, black took with this pawn, but now this bishop can kind of come back on this diagonal and be freer. Okay, so rook e1, getting an open file, a5. Okay, so again, this is a passed pawn, but we can easily blockade it. So again, this move knight d4 makes a lot of sense, because at some point you may want to eventually play b5 and try to promote a passed pawn on the c file. We're gonna have to defend this pawn first, but maybe knight d4 and then knight a4, and then like knight b6 maybe, and rook c1, and then try to go b5. But okay, so he played b5, which has a problem. And what's the problem with b5? Yeah, so unfortunately he hangs this pawn. And so all of a sudden black is doing okay. Okay, well, black missed it. Okay. So do you guys see what white should play here? Tricky, tricky. Tricky, tricky. Tricky, tricky. So yeah, bishop takes h7 doesn't work, because I can just take and you don't have a follow-up. And knight takes d5 is a good idea, but you have actually a way to strengthen knight takes d5. And the move you play first is you play queen c2. So the idea is you're hitting h7. Whoops, not like that, but like this. So if you play g6, now this is strong, because now I can even play c7 at some point, and this queen being on the square c2 actually makes a big difference. Another thing that, say black plays knight f6 for example, defend. Okay, well now knight a4, going for here, knight e4, knight b6, knight d7, because you can't really save this rook. I mean, it's pretty much a goner no matter what. So knight d7, rook e4, d4, bishop e4, knight b6, cb6, bishop f6, bc6, bishop a1, cb7, rook b8, bishop f4, g6, bishop b8, queen b8, queen c4. And this is actually good for white. Because this pawn is probably worth a rook. And right now I'm only down the exchange. So basically I'm just going to play here, try to win this pawn, and combine it with queen c7. Yeah. No, that whole line's hard to calculate. I agree. But, I mean, queen c2 is not, particularly difficult. Just hit h7. But knight d5 and c6 is tricky. And also that whole line of knight a4, knight b6 is tricky. But queen c2 is not a hard move to find, is the point. But okay, I mean, he played pawn takes pawn. Now the problem is black's actually close to equal because this pawn is almost impossible to defend. So after take, bishop e3, and now simply knight takes pawn. And okay, you get some decent compensation after, say, rook e d1, because this pawn is weak, and this knight is good, and this knight is bad. So white has good compensation for the pawn, but he's not better. I mean, maybe he has a slight plus, but it's going to be very hard to win this at the very least, because, these pawns are together, and then these pawns. So it's going to be hard for white to make his active pieces matter. And notice that black has two bishops as well. But okay, black instead just played knight a6. And now again, knight d4 is good, trying to attack the square that's in front of the pawn. So for example, knight d4, knight a b8, pretty much forced, actually, because this bishop is trapped otherwise. Knight c6, and bishop b5. Again, trying to control the square in front of the pawn with tempo. And then after knight a7, bishop a4. Notice that there's a pin here now. So if knight takes c5, I can take on e8. And if bishop takes c5, I can take again on d7, removing the defender. And then after bishop e3, after rook e3, fe3, queen d7, queen d5. And this is good for white. Because I'm up at exchange, and I'm forking your rook and your queen. So you pretty much have to exchange queens, and then this should be good for white. But again, the whole idea is to kind of keep this pawn on the board by making threats to the square in front of it, so that we can always threaten to push it if we need to. Okay, so he took on a6, and again, this is pretty much equal, because now this is defended. So knight d4 doesn't actually threaten anything. So we can just take on c5. Okay, so knight d5, bishop d5, queen d5, and now black can simply take this pawn, because of queen takes queen is a threat. So queen takes queen, rook takes, and then it's just equal. Bishop and knight and two rooks versus bishop and knight and two rooks, four pawns, just equal. But g5. Okay, g5 not best. I'll put it that way. Okay, so how should white take advantage? Just take it. Okay, with what? What should we take it with? Actually, it's probably better to take with a knight. Yeah, pony take. Okay, so now black h6. So if take with the bishop, Then bishop takes, hitting the queen, hitting the rook. And the point is I'm playing rook e7 very soon. So rook e7 is going to fork these guys. And also your king is going to be mated at some point. Because notice this rook actually defends the 6th rank kind of well, but rook e7 is indeed coming. Okay, but black played h6, so now how does white finish it off? Yeah, so white has mate in 2. With queen takes f7 and queen h7 mate. So our Patzer, of course, did this. Queen takes f7 check. King h8. And then...
check.
Nope. So our Patzer missed mate in 1. Queen h7, of course, was mate. Knight f6. Okay, notice that it's cute, but queen h7 is still mate. This knight is pinned, so...
checkmate.
See? In case you guys didn't believe me. But white was like, no, I gotta take it first. So he took it. And now, finally.
Checkmate.
Okay, so our Patzer found it finally. 3rd time's a charm. Okay. But, you know, in that game, white was doing quite well after move 7. And then slowly, over the next 10-15 moves, he kind of lost his advantage. And then black just blundered and he won. But you kind of want to let that 7 to 17 area not happen. Okay. So with that lesson in mind, let's look at the second game. Okay. Okay, so let's start here. Okay, so white exactly not playing the most enterprising moves with e4, a3, h3. So in effect, these moves are kind of like nothing moves. So black is probably already equal. So what will be a good move for black here? And yeah, I don't even know what to say about g5. Like, it was bad, but it wasn't like so horrendously bad that I can really make fun of it for so long. Like the move in that other game where the guy literally played the worst legal move on the board, that I can make fun of. But g5, I mean, it's just, I don't know what he was thinking. Okay, so what looks good for black here? I know it's early, but we want to try to get our pieces out in a harmonious fashion. So the move knight f6 makes a lot of sense. Just to hit this pawn on e4. And then after knight c3, simply d5. And already black is probably better. So yeah, we do want to play d5, but we want to be able to take with our knight, not with our queen. Because after d5, take, knight c3, we lose the tempo. But knight f6 and d5 makes a lot of sense. So again, if you can ever get d5 in the Sicilian, you're doing quite well. So this would be a good idea. Black played e5 instead, which is okay, but you know, he's kind of creating a hole unnecessarily on d5 a bit prematurely. Okay, so bishop e2, knight f6, good. d3. Okay, so now what should black play? This one is more obvious and more necessary. So what should black play here? Yeah, very good. So yeah, now d5 really is necessary because, I mean, it attacks the pawn, it frees your bishop. And again, like I said before, playing d5 in the Sicilian is usually a good thing if you can get it in. So yeah, you guys should, if you guys didn't think d5 was the right move, well, hopefully you know now. But d5 is absolutely correct. Okay, so he plays queen c7. I'm not exactly sure what that does. I mean, black should realize that he's kind of doing quite well here because of white's wasted moves with a3 and d3 and h3. So in that case, he should really try to, you know, gain the initiative. And queen c7 isn't exactly a move that gains the initiative. Okay, bishop e3. So, in this position, what should black play? Well, we'll get to that, Oni. We'll get to that. Yeah, absolutely right. D5 is still absolutely correct. Okay, but he played knight d4. So this move is actually not a good move. Okay, why is this move not a good move? Well, okay, let's ask this question. Is this knight interested in playing this move? No, that bishop sucks. Okay, why does that bishop suck? Okay, but why does that bishop suck? Right. So to determine whether a bishop is good or bad, you have to look at center pawns. And these pawns are on light squares, so this makes this bishop bad. So, you know, spending 3 moves to take a bishop on e2 doesn't make much sense. Furthermore, this knight can easily be kicked away by c3. So this move looks aggressive, and it looks strong because it's supported by these pawns, but in actuality, it's just liable to get chased away. So be on the lookout for playing these moves that look optically pleasing, but actually don't have a firm basis behind them. Okay, well, apparently white was worried about bishop being captured, so he plays bishop f1. Okay, so now black decides to target b2. And what do you guys think white's best move is? What do you guys think white's best move is? Well, I'll show you what this guy played. This guy played bishop c1. But what do you guys think the best move is? Yeah. So this game and the other game are kind of companion games, right? They're both companion games. We're trying to reset the pieces for a new game. So it turns out the best move is actually bishop c1. This is the best move on the board. I know it looks weird, but this is actually the best move. Of course, black is doing well. I mean, black is doing great. But this is actually the best move. The problem is you can't really hold this pawn any other way. Like, this move is way too weakening. This move is way too weakening. Because now c3 can never be played. Now c3 can never be played. And rook a2 looks hideous. I just played d6 and bishop e6. Yeah, the problem with queen c1 is now, again, you can never play c3. Because I always have knight b3. So I can just play d5 here. So the real key is you want to be able to play c3 at some point. And for that reason, bishop c1 is best. Okay. But again, let's count the tempi. How many tempi is black ahead here? Yeah, it's a few. It depends if you count these as actual moves, then white's played 1, 2, 3, 4 moves, and black's played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's either 6 to 4 or 6 to 2 if you don't count H3 and A3. And it's about to be 7 to either 4 or 7 to 2 because black gets to play again. Remember, white moves first, so black gets a chance to even it up now. So depending on how you count, black will either be up 3 tempi or 5 tempi. So it'll be 5 if you don't count A3 and H3. Okay, so what should black play? What should black play? Well, for the 400th time this game, yep. When you're up a lot of tempi and you have good development, should open it up. So yeah, D5 is obviously the correct move. Okay, black played D6. Again, this has shades of that E3 move, right? Remember that E3 move in the last game? This D6 move is very similar, right? Just trying to be, very solid, very sound, very safe. But why? He's up so many tempi. Why should he be that way? Okay. So D6. Knight F3. Okay, what should black play here? Yeah, these games are twins. There's a reason I did these two together. Okay, so what should I play here? Or sorry, what should black play here? Well, now D5 actually just hangs a pawn. Kind of. Sort of. So black should probably complete his development. So simple bishop E7. Simple bishop E7 makes sense. Then just castle and so on. But this move that black played...
Check.
Why is this move not good? Yeah. So this knight moved 3 times to capture a knight that moved once. And furthermore, it's actually helping white develop, because now white got his queen out. Yeah, so it helps develop white's queen for free. And he shouldn't have been opposed to something like knight d4, cd4, opening the c file. So he shouldn't have been worried about this exchange. Yeah. So he took bishop e7, castle, bishop d7. Okay. So what should black be trying to play for in this position? Yeah. So black should be trying for d5. So how can he get d5 in? Right. Exactly. So black should try to play bishop c6 and rook a d8 to try to play d5. So if bishop c6, knight d5, or say bishop c6, bishop e2, rook a d8, knight d5. Now black should switch his focus and try to play f5. So knight d5, e d5, bishop d7 with f5 to follow. And now black's kingside pawns are kind of going to roll. And these bishops are kind of silly. But yeah, if not, then so bishop e2, bishop c6, bishop e2, rook d8, castle. And now d5 is very strong because we're simply threatening to take this pawn because our rook hits d2. And this should be good for black. Okay, but he plays a5, which is a little odd. Kind of just weakens this b5 square. And so black plays bishop e2, and here black plays a4. So what do you guys think about this move? Yeah. So this move is actually has a positional basis. What is the idea of this move? What's it trying to do? Right, but what specifically is he trying to make a target? What is white targeting here? Yeah, so white's trying to open, black's trying to open this A file to target this pawn, which is actually a good idea, but the problem is white could have actually played on this move simply A4. And then this pawn becomes a target, and also this square becomes weaker. But this idea by black is logical, it's just, it could have been stopped. But okay, A4 is fine. So take. Okay, so now there's pressure on A3. Okay. So now we have to increase the pressure on A3. What's the proper way to do it? There are two choices. There are two ways to attack that pawn again. What's the proper way? So there's rook fa8 and there's queen b2. What is the proper way? Well, yeah, I mean, but if you're going to play queen a7, you might as well play rook fa8. Yeah, so what's better, queen b2 or rook fa8? Which one? So only ace rook likes queen b2? No one else likes queen b2? Do you guys think ace rook's wrong, or you think ace rook's right? Which one is it going to be? So it turns out that queen b2 actually loses. So why does queen b2 lose? Not just losing b7, actually you just lose by 4. So why does this lose? Yep, good. So rook fb1. So notice if queen d4, c3 traps the queen. Can't go anywhere. And if queen takes c2, simply bishop d1. Wins the rook. So queen d2, bishop a4, and white's winning. So the correct move is to play rook fa8. Okay, but our hero played queen b2, and now rook fb1 does win. But white played rook fc1. And so what is black's best move? Well, to demonstrate the silliness of queen b2, the best move is actually queen b6. Yeah, vsim is right. So the queen is actually misplaced on b2. If rook takes a3, rook a b1. Queen a2, rook takes b7, and white's better. So, okay, but anyway. So rook a3 was played, rook b1 good, queen d4. Okay, so now at least the queen has a4. So c3 doesn't quite win the queen now. Yeah, rook cb1, just rook takes a1 wins, right? Yeah, you can't do this because I just take your rook. This is pinned, so I just win a rook. So rook ab1 is forced, but... Okay, so queen d4, bishop e3, queen a4. Okay, so the queen got out. White should have probably just taken on b7 right away. Oh shoot. Sorry. Okay. So rook takes b7. Okay, so what's white threatening here? Okay, so what should black do? So what should black do? Yeah. So notice that after rook takes b7, you look at, okay, what's this rook threatening? And you see, okay, it's threatening this guy. So you should play rook e8, just to defend the bishop. Black apparently didn't ask himself those questions because he played this move, rook a1. And now the problem is, after rook takes e7,
Check.
rook takes, bishop takes. This doesn't really do anything because the bishop can just move. And notice that on queen a1, I can simply play queen e3. And then next move I just play king h2, and then bishop d2 to unpin it. And white is just up a piece for nothing. So black just hung a piece. Okay, but queen c2, bishop e3, h6, creating some loop, stopping bishop g5. King h2, getting his king off the back rank. Rook a8. Okay, what does black have here? Oh, sorry. What does white have here? Sorry. What does white have here? So this pawn is overworked. So bishop takes h6, wins. Notice that it didn't work before. For example, it didn't work quite here because after take, this guy hangs. But after rook a8, if take, I'm also threatening mate in 2. So you have no time to take this. Okay, so what did white play? White took. Good move. Okay, rook a2. Okay, now white to move and win. White actually has forced mate here. Do you guys see the forced mate? Queen takes rook e8, that doesn't mate. I have king h7. Queen g3 doesn't quite work. Bishop takes g7 doesn't quite work. I can just take with the king. It's mate in 9, guys. Come on. It's easy. Easy as pie. Queen takes knight, that doesn't do anything other than lose your queen. Mate e9, easy peasy, yeah. This is trivial. Bishop g7, nope, I just take it. So the idea is you want to get to this file. But you also want to be on this knight. So the simple idea is simply queen f5. And the idea is you simply want to play queen g5 and queen takes g7. And there's not a thing that white can do about it, or sorry, that black can do about it. Not a single thing. So for example, if you take, I take. Then if you play queen b3, I have check and mate. If you take, I just play queen g5. Now I'm threatening mate here. If knight h5, then rook e8,
check,
and queen h5, check, and rook h8 is mate. You have g6, then simply queen f7,
check,
and rook h8,
check,
and queen e7,
check,
and h4,
check,
and queen
check.
e6. And queen takes f6.
Check.
And queen
Checkmate.
So it's pretty simple. Pretty simple, guys. Pretty simple. Anyway, white played bishop e3. But now all of a sudden, this guy's hanging. And black's actually fine. Because after this trade, it's just dead equal. Rook and knight versus rook and bishop. 5 pawns, 5 pawns. This is basically drawn. It's hard for this rook to attack this pawn. He can't play rook e8 or rook d7. So you have to kind of like go around. But then this pawn is weak. Okay. So king g3, rook e1. So now black's idea is he wants to play rook d1. So white should play king f3, king e2 here. So on king f3, rook d1, he can play king e2 and defend the pawn. But he plays rook c7, which is a mistake, because after rook d1, he just wins the pawn. f4, take, take, okay, g4. Okay, d5, take. Okay, now black to move and win. Black to move and win. Okay, so the move to win is g5 check.
Check.
Okay, so white has 4 choices. White can either go here, 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 or here. Okay, we'll get the simple ones out of the way. So if king g3, simply win a piece, right? That's easy.
Check.
Okay, if king e5, or sorry, this one too. Sorry. Okay, this one just wins the rook. Easy. If king takes pawn, obviously knight takes e4.
Check.
Easy. Okay, those 3 are easy. Okay, so king f3. Now what? This one's a little harder. Still pretty easy though. So now the king's in a pin with the bishop, so all I have to do is attack the bishop again. And we can do that with d4. So d4 just wins. Yep. So he can take on g5.
Check.
Play king f8, but I can always take on e3 with the rook, but check. So that wins. Okay, so now the trickiest one is what happens on king f5. So do you guys see what happens here? This is cute. This is real cute. d4 and rook f3 don't do anything. Right, so knight takes e4. So it's a double attack. I'm attacking the rook, and I'm attacking the bishop. So the only way to save both pieces is to play rook c8 check.
Check.
But now, I play this move, king h7, and now look, I still have a double attack. I'm attacking this, but I'm also attacking this. So the only way to save both is to play bishop to c5. And now, how do we win this piece? Simply rook c3. Yep, and this is pinned. And this is why we played king h7, by the way, guys. Because if we play king g7, then bishop c5, rook c3, now bishop d4 just wins. So that's why we played king h7, not king g7. So yeah, rook c3 just wins a piece. So g5 does just win. Kind of cute idea. Okay, so instead white's block on 24, which is fine.
Check.
Check. Okay, so now black's just up 2 pawns. He's gonna win this game. f6, bishop c7. Okay. So now what's black's best move here? Yeah, we simply want to close the mating net. And this king's in a bit of a mating net. And this move knight g5 closes it quite nicely. So the threat is rook f3. And it's actually rather unstoppable. So actually what white's best move is to play king f5. But now we actually have a super tricky idea, which is simply rook f3 check.
Check.
Bishop f4, rook takes f4 check.
Check.
And knight e6 check.
Check.
And we win. Okay, so black did play knight g5, which was good. So white played rook e8. And so what should black play here? Right, it's checkmate. Okay, what should black play here? Right, so checkmate. So what should black play here? Right, so checkmate.
Check.
Fortunately for his sanity, he won anyway. And there you guys go. 2 wins from our Patzers, although not the prettiest games. So that's it for episode 25.